Hello and welcome back to the Time Bender's Toolbox podcast. My name is Kathryn and I am a 5D visionary and elevated consciousness coach, timeline healer, and time bender. Today I want to talk about timelessness, or time out of time. Maybe you can feel it. Maybe you can see it. This sense of the walls kind of closing in on your 3D reality, your sense of being in a body, moving through space and time. And it can kind of feel sometimes like pulling on a pair of jeans that you've outgrown, or maybe like when you were in kindergarten and you tried to fit the round peg into a square hole. Or it's just a feeling of general claustrophobia. Feeling more confined, feeling like your reality, even though it feels like your consciousness is ascending, but your everyday reality seems more fixed, more confined, more constricting. Something just doesn't fit or sit right anymore, yeah? Here you are, you're reimagining a new self, a new way of being. Things are coming to light, things are coming to mind. Things are, becoming clear. You're coming into a place of clarity where maybe you're having epiphanies or revelations about ways of being, like, why did this never occur to me before? And it's suddenly very freeing, yes, to have these kinds of epiphanies or revelations sometimes. But then you're taking this information and you're still kind of trying to make it work, fit this new fantastic round peg into a square hole, making it work kind of with the same rules of engagement, within the same kinds of confines of perception that you have always had. Thus, that feeling of claustrophobia, that feeling of pulling on a pair of jeans that are just too tight, you've outgrown them, they don't fit you anymore. And here you are, you're upgrading, you're elevating your consciousness, but it feels like you only get to stretch it so far before you get pushed back down into the same drama, trauma, karma, that feels very familiar, very outdated, and very predictable. So here's what's really going on, and I want to help you. So I really hope that this helps you to kind of give you a way to kind of compartmentalize this or make some sort of sense of it, even though intellectually these upgrades that are happening to us routinely on an accelerated timeline now, we can't always expect them to make sense to us intellectually. What's happening goes beyond what our intellect, our rational, analytical minds can understand. It's more about moving into the sensation with a lot more grace and ease and flow, and moving beyond the need to intellectually rationalize, compartmentalize, fractionate, and fragment everything so we can get these bits and pieces of understanding. It's not going to work that way for us anymore, and the more we try to force that, that's really like putting the round peg into a square hole. It's just not going to make sense in the way that we've always tried to make sense of our lives. We're moving into such higher levels of consciousness and ways of being that the old rules of engagement that operated kind of within the same confines of perception, they're just not going to work anymore. So here's what's really going on, and I truly hope this helps you. The higher you go in consciousness, the more you experience time out of time. And you're like, what the heck does that mean? Please explain. I will. So even though it feels sometimes like you are stuck in the density and the illusion of being in your 3D self, here you are going about your day, your routine, your habituated ways of being is just kind of on autopilot, okay? And it's kind of an illusion. It's kind of a simulation. It's real to you based on your level of perception within that 3D confine of reality. But in actuality, you're kind of vacillating between third dimensional reality, fourth dimensional reality, fifth dimensional, even sixth dimensional awareness all the time because of the planetary ascension timeline that we are actively experiencing. But even these dimensional realities, at first blush, you're thinking, okay, fourth, fifth, sixth dimensional awareness, that's moving up in consciousness. That's accessing an elevated way of being. True. But even these dimensional realities hold corrupted and distorted, chaotic energies of unresolved ego, drama, and trauma. If you haven't yet transcended these dramas and mark the timelines that hold them as complete, these realms of awareness, fourth, fifth, and even sixth dimensional awareness, they have a carryover effect through active timelines that I just talked about that are holding these unresolved ego, drama, and traumas, and they are merging with your dominant 3D timeline of being. And they're holding a state of imbalance and a state of unwelcome contrast because they haven't been dissolved or collapsed yet. They haven't been reconciled. These are still active energies causing undue, unwelcome polarity and duality in your everyday life, causing confusion, chaos, etc. And so to really resolve this, it's imperative to move beyond the denser vibratory states. And yes, fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional states are denser vibratory states of astral and causal realms. And it is imperative that we move into the higher etheric realms of higher vibration. And when you're accessing time, the fabric of time, you're accessing timelines in these higher levels of etheric awareness, which is 7D, seventh dimensional awareness and beyond. It allows you to move past the egoic, the animalistic, kind of survival mode level of judgment and perspective and scope of perception. And here you are in the higher self level of perception, and you're accessing your pure soul essence. You're working with the fabric of time in a quite different way in these higher realms of 7D and beyond, and you are manipulating the time-space grid ahead of or in front of 3D time-space. And don't worry, I'm going to explain that in a second. But healing or upgrading benefits tend to show up faster in your everyday life, your everyday waking reality, because time moves faster at the etheric level. Because as you increase your harmonic octave, your vibration, through activating higher states of consciousness, you're accessing something called harmonic time compression, which tends to squeeze or shrink time. This happens as we access dimensional realities and translations of time that are 4D and beyond. Time is more fluid and flexible in the higher subtle realms, and it's incredibly powerful to play with. Advanced spiritual healing and upgrading is available to you because you are beyond the mind, beyond the body, beyond the ego. And it can sometimes take hours, days, or weeks to heal something that is taking years to release or clear. And the same thing goes for being able to activate a certain spiritual skill set that has maybe been evading you for years, like astral travel, lucid dreaming, remote viewing, or upgrading your capability for, let's just say, clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, clairsentience. Any psychic abilities, really. Accessing time out of time, or timelessness, is a skill set in and of itself, and it can be learned and mastered with practice. But it's about shifting your awareness. It's about setting up a foundation to work with a shifted level of awareness where you're working in the higher octave of your higher self, and you are accessing time out of time. You are accessing different dimensional translations of time. This is where the greatest level and the advanced levels of spiritual healing and upgrading really take place. And one of the most amazing things about working with the fabric of time is being able to experience timelessness within time. In the soul's evolution to accessing the higher harmonics of ascension, this is part of the natural progression of advanced spiritual awakening. It's the shifting of awareness into the eternal now, untethered from the limits and the confines of the 3D time-space matrix, where we are observing the flow of time and fragmenting so much of our divine and infinite nature into snapshots of identity, which are false and small, because we're fractionating and fragmenting them, creating these snapshots of identity within the framework of seconds, moments, hours, days, months, years, and decades. But on the other hand, in observing timelessness, we transcend the need to identify ourselves in time. And instead, we merge with Source and the eternal outside of time, in timelessness, allowing for a deeper connection to the all that is. And when we do this, we shift into more of our higher self-identity. We have a graceful fluidity of consciousness, which allows us to move easily into altered states of awareness, where we can remote view impressions of ways of being that exist in other timelines, space, dimensions, and parallel realities. And we can bilocate through certain psychic abilities like astral travel. And these abilities are the natural skill sets that come with higher sensory perception, actively shifting into the awareness of higher vibratory states of being. And this is only possible through observing the consciousness fluidity of timelessness. When your sphere of awareness is limited to 3D time-space perception, these abilities are beyond your veil of perspective. Lifting this veil of perspective is perfectly aligned with the advanced spiritual awakening process that is part of timeline healing and time bending. Mastering the art of timelessness allows you to collapse, bend, merge, and quantum jump time. And as you better acquire the skill sets of playing with and subtly manipulating the fabric of time, you are activating more of your light body, your etheric self, that is already fully aware of the malleability, the elastic nature of the construct of time, of the different translations of time as you move up in dimensional awareness. This light body awakening signals your progression into spiritual maturity and advanced multidimensional awareness, where bilocation, remote viewing, astral travel are part of the trajectory of your ever-evolving, ever-elevating stations of consciousness. So I want to give you a link to a YouTube video that I have, which is streaming the eternal now moment. This is a guided practice, a guided meditation that I walk you through. This is an exercise that helps me to do so many things, to find peace in the eternal and infinite present that stretches on beyond time and into timelessness, to connect with the galactic time grid, which is the map of all time that exists as kind of time outside of time. I know that sounds a little bit nebulous and esoteric, but everything I'm talking about here in this guided meditation makes more sense by having the experience of it instead of just me talking about it. Go to the guided practice that I'm going to give you the link to here and see for yourself. This will help you to activate new potentials for being, to access 12 different translations of consciousness, sometimes more, and to view a sequence of linear time such as past and future, and I'll walk you through this in the guided practice. The eternal now moment can be streamed as a vertical, non-linear vantage point of awareness where you are sorting through different, let's just say, punctuations or translations or events in linear horizontal time. And you're observing it from a quantum level of perspective. You're in your higher self avatar. So you're beyond ego, you're beyond the mind, you're beyond the body here. So you move away from that egoic level of judgment where you're at that survival mode state of being. This is a very interesting vantage point to be able to view your life from this really pulled back perspective. And it's an exercise that gives you a lot of peace, a break in your day, if you will, where you can kind of move outside of time, get a bigger perspective of where you're at, and then go back into your 3D reality avatar of self with a much more refreshed and enlightened perspective on what's really going on. So I hope that you enjoy this. I hope this talk has been informative as well as interesting. And I want to wish you all so much love and peace, and thank you again for listening. Bye-bye.